Hello, all. Thanks so much for joining us here for our next session. I'm joined with Edwin Barbosa Ortiz of Cannabis Streams. He's going to talk about immigration and consulting. We'll take some questions at the end, of course. Edwin, thanks so much for taking the time. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Edwin Barbosa. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I'm located in Toronto, and the name of my company is Canada Streams, Immigration and Consulting Services. And first of all, I want to thank Logan from the School Finder Group to give me the chance to be in front of you and share this information. So as you can tell by my accent, I am immigrant. I've been living in Canada for the last 20 years. And I can tell you that it's an amazing country. You know, it's not going to be easy at the beginning, but if you are determined, disciplined, a hard worker, I think you can have a nice life in Canada. So our agenda for today, this presentation is going to take around 35 minutes, and some questions is going to take at the end. I'm going to start my presentation with some true and false questions about Canada. Also, I will talk about why choosing Canada as a destination for international students. Also, we talk a little bit about education options in Canada, and we go more in detail about top 4 steps to study in Canada. Some people that have family want to come to Canada as international students, so I talk a little bit bringing their family and children with them. Also, we are going to talk about the post-graduation work permit once the programs are finished. And at the end, as I mentioned before, we are going to have some questions. Okay, so let's start with the true and false questions. So the first question is, does Canada have the longest street in the world? Okay, so let's see. So what do you think? Do you think that is true or is false? So it is true. Yonge Street in Toronto is 56 kilometers and is the longest street in the world. So that was a correct answer. Is Canada the largest country in the world by total area? It is false. Russia is the biggest country by area, and Canada is the second largest country in the world. Something that I don't know if it's happened in other countries, but do you think that Canadian police give out positive tickets for people doing the right stuff? It is true. And I have a personal experience about this. I saw once a gentleman helping a lady passing the street, and the police approached him, give him a positive ticket, and also give Tim Hortons gift card. So for the people that don't know about Tim Hortons, it's a very popular coffee shop. And yes, they give this a gift card, and I was amazed about this gesture about the police. Another question is Santa Claus Canadian? It's true. In 2012, Canada's immigration minister declared that Santa Claus was a Canadian citizen. So if you want to send letters to Santa Claus, here is the address for him. So the address is Santa Claus, North Pole. The postal code is HOHOHO Canada. And believe it or not, there are volunteer people answering the letters and receiving from people. So give it a shot. Just try to see if you receive an answer from Santa Claus. Okay. So now we are going to talk about why choosing Canada as a destination for international students. Canada ranks in 3rd place globally for the best quality of life. And when we talk about quality of life, we are talking about wealth, employment, environment, education, recreation, religious beliefs, safety. So yes, it's amazing. It's an amazing place to be. Also, you're going to be able to find or choose between 8,000 colleges programs and around 16,000 university programs. And 7 Canadian universities are ranked among the top 200 in the world. Also, Canada is a very, very multicultural country where you can find more than 250 ethnic origins, along with 200 languages from around the world and 70 indigenous languages spoken. In addition, in comparison with the US, UK, and Australia, Canada has more affordable tuition fees in terms of education. And I think this is very important for people that want to come to Canada and apply Canadian residency. A recent study shows that 60% of international students who were employed during the period of study or after graduation became landed immigrants within 10 years of having obtained their first study permit. So as you can see, there is a big chance that you can become Canadian residents. Okay, so education options in Canada. International students can come to Canada for elementary school, high school, colleges and vocational schools, universities, professional certifications, language schools, and online and distant learning. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to talk about colleges, universities, and language schools. So there are 223 universities in Canada, 213 colleges and institutes, and 99 colleges in Canada offers bachelor's degrees, and a few offers master's degree. And there are 225 languages schools accredited by Languages Canada. So in terms of languages school, it's very important for the international student that they need to find a school that is designated learners institution in order to apply for a study permit. So these only designated learning institutes can give letter of acceptance to students to come to Canada. One approach that I found from some students is that they came to Canada, they decide to study in university, college, either private or public, to master the language in order to improve the English results. So once they have the results that they need to go into the program, they will go directly and apply to the institution. Another approach that I found is that students came right into the institution that they are planning to take the program, and they study there, and when they finish the program, they go right into the program in that institution. And another approach that I found that is very interesting because I think international students can save some money, is that some students came to private schools that they have partnerships with universities and colleges. So they have like a pathways. This means that they can start in this institution, they finish, and when they finish with the letter of certification, they can go right into the college or university without having to have any additional test. And it's cheaper as well. So I think it's a good way to explore this option. Okay, so for English programs, so if someone decides to come to Canada to take some classes for English or French, for less than 6 months, you don't have to have a student permit. Also, you cannot work. And the same applies for English programs that are more than 6 months. So basically, if you want to study, the study permit is needed, and you cannot work as well. So for any program, English program in Canada, you cannot work. So it's very important to take that in consideration. In here, we can see an overview between university versus college. So the type of approach from universities are like a research-based, and college is practical-based. But now something that is happening that is university and colleges are developing programs that are like a hybrid programs where research base is combined with practical base. So there are very neat and interesting programs in universities and colleges applying this new hybrid approach. The language of instruction is English and French. The same thing apply for colleges. The language requirements, of course, this is each institution has its own criteria, but for universities, around 6.5 and above in all of the skills, and for college is IELTS 5.5 and above. The types of schools, public and private, that apply for university and colleges. The admission intakes are fall, winter, spring for both. And the types of course offered in university are bachelor, masters, and PhDs. And in colleges, certificate, diploma, bachelor's, and master's. So timeline and intakes. So the application process for a post-secondary program starts at least 1 year in advance. So if you want to apply, you want to go into college or university in 2023, let's say September, I think it's time to start the application because it's a long process and you need to provide a lot of documentation. So it's very important to start now. So fall starts in September and finish on December. The winter intake starts in January and finish on April. And the spring intake starts on May and finishes on August. Something that is very popular for international students is to apply in September, since there are larger number of seats available for students. Okay, so here we are going to talk a little bit more in detail. And I found these top 4 steps to study extremely, extremely important. So the first step is find a school and a program. So as I mentioned before, if you want to Canada as an international student, you need to apply as an institution that is a designated learning institution, can be private or can be public institutions. The important thing here is that if you want to apply as a permanent resident after you finish your school, it's extremely important that you choose a public funded institution, and the program has to be eligible for a postgraduate work permit once you finish the program. So it's very important to that. I had a client that came to Canada, studied for 2 years, but they studied in private institutions. So when he went to apply for a post-graduation work permit, he realized that he was not able to do it. So it's very important to make sure that the school is public funded institution, designated learning institution, and the program that you want to take is eligible for a postgraduate work permit. Okay, so applying to school. So each institution has its own criteria. So once you find out what institution and what program you want to study, the best thing is contact the institution. Could be over the phone or online, and you're going to be able to find other requirements that you need to apply. Okay, so once you're accepted, you will receive an acceptance letter. That is one of the first steps in order to start applying for a student permit. And it's very important. A student permit is different than a visa. A student permit allows you to study in Canada and a visa allow you to come into Canada. So it's very important to have the differences between both of them. So step 3 is make a budget. So very important, because you need to figure out in advance how much money you are going to invest in a year. So in here, we can find some universities' fees for 2021. Of course, it's general, since these prices change according to the program. But we can see that Ontario has the highest university fees for international undergraduate students, and Newfoundland and Labrador has the lowest. So if you are open and you don't have a specific place to choose, I think, for example, the Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland and Labrador, you can see the prices are, well, a good price in comparison with other provinces. And also these provinces belong to the Atlantic provinces. And right now they have interesting immigration programs for international students. So it's a good way to explore and do some research before you choose the program at the school. Also, we can see that from books, you will spend around $500 to $800. So that is another component to add into your budget. Life expenses. So food and groceries, you will spend between $300 and $400. If you want to go to restaurants, you can find dishes from $12 to $35. Transportation, $100 to $150. Utilities, rent, and clothing. So rent is going to be an important factor where you are going to spend a lot of money. So it depends what kind of accommodation you are choosing is going to be the price. So, but around is between $950 and $2,200 a month. So, okay, so now you have a budget and how you need to figure out how you're going to pay for your studies. So there are international organizations that provide scholarships for international students. So you go online, you can find these organizations. So I think it's worth to see the criteria and apply. You never know if you are going to receive a scholarship, but do it. It's a good way to start. Once you are in school, colleges and universities offer bursaries and scholarships. Personally, when I was in school, I applied to a lot of them, and I get some. And really, they were very, very helpful, especially when you're a student. And you are always, as a student, you don't have too much money in your pocket. So it's a good way to do. Also, work. You can work being a full-time. You can work in Canada. Later on, I will give you more details about this. Student loans. Check your local governments to see if they have student loans for international studies. As some governments offer free interest loans. So it's also a good way to explore that option. And also support from parents and family. So let's say your cousin or your uncle are going to help you with the studies. It's very important to provide all the information, financial information in the application when you're going to do the student permit application. Okay, so let's say that you're ready to start the application process. So there are two ways to do it. You can do it through the student direct stream. In order to do it, you need to qualify for this stream. So if you are resident from any country that are in the list, you're going to be able to apply. And the benefit is that you will get your study permit in 20 calendar days. So it's great. It's very fast. And now we are going to explore the criteria. So the first criteria is that you need to be a legal resident living in one of these countries, have an acceptance letter for a post-secondary designated learning institution, be living outside Canada when you make the application, have a proof of payment for your first year of tuition. So if you decide that you apply for, you have all the criteria and you are able to pay the first year of tuition, just make sure that you realize what is the refund policy for the school, because you don't want to deposit the money, and for any chance your application is rejected, the institutions maybe is going to give you 50% back, 20%, or maybe it's not going to return your money. So before you do that, make sure that you can get back most of the money. It's very important that. Also, you need to have a guaranteed investment certificate of $10,000. So basically, these $10,000 are for the first year of expenses, living expenses in Canada. So you need to, in here, you need to pay for tuition, and also you need to have this GIC in order to prove that you have money. So how any bank in Canada have this kind of financial tools. So if you want to know more about this, contact the bank, and they let you know how to open that account in Canada. In case your application is rejected, they will send all the money back from the same account that was deposited in your country. And if you are planning to study in Quebec, so have a certificate de acceptation de Quebec. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly if that is pronounced the right way, but yes, also you need the same requirement for the acceptation from the school. If you are living in some countries for more than 6 months, you might require a medical exam and police certificate that you will, you know exactly once you start the application if you need this medical exam and police certificate. Be ready to have your most transcripts done and translated in English or French. And also you need to find out if the school requires for you to have an organization to certify these studies. Also, you need to have the language test results that shows either the IELTS, academic or general, but I think in here is academic for this purpose. It has to be 6.0 or higher in each skill. As you know, there are 4 skills that are evaluating in the IELTS. One is speaking, talking, writing, and comprehension. So you need to have at least 6 on all of each of them. And if you are applying in Quebec, you need to have the TEF, and basically you need to have a 7 in each skill. Okay, so what happens if you don't apply for the student direct stream? So basically the waiting time is around 12 weeks. The documentation is basically almost similar to the program that I just talked. You need to prove acceptance, you need to prove financial support, bank statements, student loans, all this information. You need to prove identity, like passports and other documents. So it's very similar to the student direct stream. So what happens if you want to come to Canada and you have a spouse? So when you apply, you are the main applicant, and your spouse is coming in the application. So, but you are the main applicant. So you are going to apply for a student permit, and your spouse are going to apply for an open work permit. So an open work permit means that she can work or he can work anywhere, doesn't have any restrictions on their work permit. If you're bringing a child or children, also you can include it in the applications. If they are from 4 years old to 18, they can go into the elementary school or high school. They are dependents of you, so you can include it in the application. Very important, if you're going to bring, let's say, your wife, your child, and you, that means you need to have $10,000 for you for expenses, plus you need to add $4,000 additional dollars for each member they are coming to Canada. So if there are 3 people coming, you need to prove you have $18,000 for the first year. So work while studying. So usually most Canadian study permits allow a full-time international student to work up to 20 hours per week during regular school. And in holidays, they can work up to 40 hours a week. But as November 15, 2022, you can work more than 20 hours per week and also more than 40 hours if you are in a break. So this temporary measure goes until December 2023. Okay, so let's say that you finish school, your program is eligible for a post-graduation work permit. So you should apply before you finish school, and you have 180 days to apply for this work permit in order to obtain it. Very important in this post-graduation work permit is that you need to work, at least you need to get it's the opportunity to get a Canadian experience. So basically, and once you get the Canadian experience, you are able to apply for an immigration stream. So how long is going to be the post-graduation work permit? So it depends on the length of the course you are taking. If you are taking a course for 8 months, you will get an 8 months post-graduate work permit. The same applies for 1 year, 2 years. You will get, if you're studying 1 year, you will get it for 1 year. If you were studying for 2 years, program for 2 years, you will get it for 2 years. And if you are doing a 3 or more, you will get it for 3 years. So it's very important that in this, you need to work, you need to get the experience. For example, if you are coming for 2 years, it's very important that you are going to get Canadian experience in terms of like working in 1 year of 2. So that means that you have 1 to 2 years of the post-graduation work permit. You need to work 1,560 hours. So that is equivalent to 1 year of work experience. And as I mentioned before, once you have enough experience, you can apply for Canadian Experience Class, Federal Skilled Worker, Federal Skilled Trades, Provincial Nomination Programs, and Quebec Immigration Programs. Okay, so I have finished my presentation. There is the moment for some questions. Right there is my contact information if you want to contact me after the presentation is finished. So Logan, please, you want to take some questions?
Absolutely, and thanks, Edwin, for presenting here. A lot of great info. I'm just adding your email address to the chat so people can use it right away. So we do have quite a few questions. I'm not sure we'll get to them all, but we'll do the best we can. So this is a popular question. Is it possible for someone to study in Canada without having the capacity to pay for it? You mentioned the 10 grand bond earlier. Is it possible to study in Canada without?
Well, if you don't want to, so if you don't want to deposit the money, you need to show that you have the money. So if the question is if you want to study in Canada and you cannot prove enough money, no, it's going to be difficult, because basically what the government wants to know is that you really have the commitment and the intention to come to Canada as a student, and they don't want people to use this stream to come to Canada and stay illegally.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Edwin. Somewhat similar question from a student in Nigeria hoping to enroll in software engineering at the undergrad level. She's wondering, is there any fully funded scholarships for computer science or international students more broadly, or will they typically need to provide some funding themselves?
There are some international organizations that provide funding for international students. If this person, please feel free to have my contact information, send me an email, and I will send you a link with these international organizations that can provide some funding.
Appreciate that. Yeah, funding is a popular topic for most. So we've got a few more minutes, a few more questions. We kind of touched on this. Are you allowed to work in Canada while studying?
Yes. You can work if you are a full-time student. You can work now from November 15th of this year to next year to December 23. You can study, you can work more than 20 hours a week. So yes, you can work while you're studying.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks. Some new changes to that recently. Here's an interesting question from earlier in the session. You were talking about the pros of studying in Canada. How about some of the cons? What are some of the downsides of studying?
I think maybe like winter can be a little bit difficult, but my personal experience, as I mentioned before, I am an immigrant. What I do for this kind of, for me, has been difficult is to find an activity for each season of the year. So that way I can enjoy it. And it's a good way also to networking with people. That is one factor. Another thing is sometimes also you can feel maybe alone because you are alone in a new country. But in order to overcome that is networking. Go outside, talk to people, and try to network. And that is a good way also to meet people, but also finding new opportunities in Canada.
Appreciate that. Yeah, good advice. Somewhat similar, same student, in fact. How about harsh weather, managing the harsh weather here? Any advice?
Yeah, I think you need very good winter gear. Extremely important. Always a good jacket, always keep a hat, keep gloves, and a good pair of shoes. Very important.
Absolutely. And it's November now. It's only going to get more and more important. Okay. Another interesting question here. Any advice for programs for international students in Canada that can be completed within 2 years? So a sort of shorter program that might be a good fit for international students, maybe a field in general. Any advice there?
I think there are a lot programs that are in demand right now, and that programs that are qualified as are eligible for postgraduate work permit. So checking online, like for example, like trades is a very important career in Canada. So, for example, go and take carpentry, or maybe you want to go to university, human resources, web development. That's a good opportunities. And also is that once you finish, you're going to be able to find job very fast, and most likely they are going to give you a job offer. There are many. There's just a few that in my mind right now, but there are a lot of them.
Yeah, it's good advice. The trades in particular are in huge demand here in Canada right now. We've got about 5 more minutes. We'll try to get through as many more questions as we can. This is a question from Anonymous asking about how to tell the difference between private and public universities. How do you know the difference?
Well, usually the websites, they tell people if they are private or they are public. So just by going to the website, you can tell. And the important thing is here is that they need to be designated. So if you are not sure about if this institution is designated, there are websites from the government of Canada that tell people if that institution is designated or not.
Appreciate that. Thanks. Another question here from Deepak. Not totally sure, so maybe they can add some more context. But the question is, how do students get admission as scores don't release prior to July? Maybe that's meaning high school courses. I'm not totally sure. Any advice on the sort of timeline, though, of admissions?
Well, yeah, I will say that you need to start a year before you apply. So as the example that I give in the presentation, if you want to come to Canada to study next fall, 2023, right now is the moment to start the application.
Yeah, that's right. Same here for Canadian students as well. Okay, thanks for that. Another question from Judith. What provinces have the highest cost of living? Where is it most expensive to live?
I think Ontario and British Columbia are the highest. They're more expensive provinces. Many people like to go to Vancouver because the weather is mild. It's not as cold as the rest of Canada. And other people decide to come to Ontario, especially to Toronto, because the city. So yes, I think Ontario and British Columbia and Alberta are the most expensive provinces in Canada.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As somebody who lives in Toronto myself, it is pretty expensive. A couple of more scholarship-related questions, going to blend them together. Are first-year students offered scholarships, and are there scholarships that last throughout the years of university, year 2, 3, 4?
Usually, the bursary and scholarships, you can apply the first year. You're going to find bursaries especially for international students. And usually there is only one payment, kind of like a bursary scholarship. But it's worth to ask in the university or college this question, because from college to college and university to university, everything changed. They don't have like the same kind of bursaries or scholarship opportunities. So it's very important to ask to the college or the university these kind of questions, so that way you know what kind of opportunities students have.
Appreciate that. Yeah, when in doubt, reach out. Another question here. Are all university programs, do they qualify for the open work permit, or are there restrictions based on your field?
No, not all of them. For that reason, it's very important when you're choosing your program that the program is eligible for the post-graduation work permit. So yeah, not all the programs qualify for this.
Yes, thank you. So when in doubt, reach out. We've got just about 1 more minute here. What are some of the things that might be the reason behind your study permit being denied? Why might Canada refuse your study permit?
One of the main reasons is if you don't show enough money, that is one main reason. Also, if you show like a double intent, so that means that you're using student permit to come to Canada and still illegally, also that is another reason. But I think the financials are very important in the application.
Yeah, that is the harsh truth. We are out of time. Edwin, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. What should students do if they didn't get their questions answered or they have more questions for you? What would you say?
Well, there is my contact information right here. So there is my email address. So please feel free, send me your questions, and I will send them. Will respond it and send them back to them.
That's great. Thanks so much, Edwin. Really appreciate your time and your expertise today. Have a great afternoon.
Logan, thank you so much.
My
Bye-bye, everyone.
See ya.
Take care.